Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «ГолубьМира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about interactions with robots and let's start with the definition.
Robot, this is funny words which was discovered or created by Czech writer and работа. This is in Czech language. It means job. So robot, it's a completely Slavonic word. And if I will put this translation in direct English, it would be jobber. Some mechanism which are dedicated to do some job. For example, wash machine or dishwashing machine and so on, vacuum cleaner. By the way, I have vacuum cleaner of my own, and it is a Tefal, and it is autonomic equipment. I take this household not home appliance, and I put on my Android phone or on my iPad. I just show the road or square would be cleaned. But if I will, for example, put a sock or wire or, for example, flower on the road, it would be damaged, or my robot would stop because he couldn't go after taking this sock or wire in some holes. So if you want to use your vacuum cleaner, you should completely clean the floor, and then you could say to this robot, the floor is yours. The same, for example, with I don't know, drone. If you will put your drone in the sky and you will manage it, maybe it would go wrong because of some wire, of some bird, and so on. But if it would be automatic, maybe it would be smart, but who knows? So if we want to make our robots to be more successful, we should give them more freedom. More freedom is gained through autonomy, but autonomy it also leads for mistake. For example, if you will drive your Tesla and you will go on road that goes up, it could happen that you have light traffic, correct?
Light traffic.
For light traffic, and for example, it would be a very close moon. If moon would shine brightly, your Tesla will think this is yellow color of light speed, and the Tesla would stop. Or for example, I also don't know how to say, maybe I'll try and you will correct me. For example, you will go by road, and usually it would be like UVs, sedan, and trucks. But if it would be cab with horses, карета,
Yes, could say cab
cab
or
with
diligence.
diligence, yes, correct, diligence much better. What would think your Tesla? Your Tesla would convert this diligence probably to truck or probably to jeep. So you never know if you will see or your robot will see something very unusual and rare. This mechanism could decide to behave in a very strange way.
So it seems like we also need to be aware of how potentially robots can make a mistake so that it won't put our life or life of our people in danger or do certain damage to whatever appliances we have. But when it comes to interacting with them, what might be the levels, or maybe even not really the levels, but like interfaces or from our side, and what could be the interfaces from robot side? Because I do believe robots also at certain point of time will kind of try to interact with a human. So how we can actually evolve from the, like very basic things to almost like a telepathic connection.
You're completely right. If you have a human and if you have robots, you have completely mirrored interfaces. If you know the words, robot should know them. If you know the rule, robot should know. If you know restriction, robot should know. If some of these sides do not know something, the connection would be lost and you will have a complete disaster. For example, I was developing computer antivirus program. For very first time, I was on the first stage. I was just put приманка.
Byte.
I was using like a byte. It was like empty files, and if there were viruses on my computer, maybe the virus would go to this file, would change the size and content of it. It was very easy, and I should just by my eyes check these files for several times per day. Second, you will create a program that would know some rules, but suddenly you will realize that your rules should be improved. So you starting to make self-modificate rules by time, not by event, not by time. And after several weeks, I understand that I already tired to check every my diskette for viruses, and I created for very first time on the planet for all humankind a program that would check all diskettes that would be put in disk what, correct? Disk driver. Yes. Before this time, all programs were asking, do you want to check another diskette? And people were saying yes or no. I completely removed this from my program, and it was always in the memory. Yes, it was some spend of the memory, but if you will put diskette, I would not allow you to read anything from it while I'll check it. So first level, you do with robots very small steps. You check robot before and after. Then you give some more продвинутые, more advanced rules, and your robot will go sometimes for 20 or for 50 steps. And last level, and last level would be if you will give so many restrictions to the robot that in 90% of cases, robot will go and make everything without you.
So yeah, basically it's like using a different steps and trying to advance them to further and further level. I probably would think of some sort of like a sandbox when you're setting like certain honeypots and you're actually trying to make them to make a mistake so that you can learn from it. An ideal case is that like you actually need a sophisticated system to achieve like ideal scenario when you have like a very perfect interaction. But when it comes to like interacting with the different types of the robot or with the different types of the systems, obviously as a human, because we're also not so perfect creatures, we also might be making mistakes, still thinking that we are correct. So what kind of things we should be avoiding from the side of our species?
You already mentioned one method or maybe one tool. It's called sandbox. For example, when I'm working with robots, usually I use some programming languages like SQL, sequence query language, or something like this. And what I'm doing, usually I do select before I do delete. Select will show me what I am going to modify. And I don't know exactly, but maybe in 2% of that select time, suddenly I realized I am so happy that it was not delete, because sometimes rules I invented in my head, for me it is like smart rules or sharp rules, but suddenly I would find that there are very few mistakes, but they are important ones.
And actually, just trying to think further, and at the skill it says that interaction with the robots, but it doesn't says like who exactly interacting with them. So I mean, I don't really mean like animals or whatever, but maybe reach at certain point of time the stage where the actually robots will be interacting with the robots. Like for example, if they build something, they just need to have like some extra items that they could order from another system, or maybe even like sign a contract. Again, like it could be like a digital or whatever, so that like this interaction could lead to accomplishing a bigger project.
You know, it was a time I was going to St. Petersburg. This is large, second largest city in Russia, via train called Sapsan. Sapsan, it's like a falcon bird, something like this.
Could be like this, yes.
And suddenly, sorry?
Yes, could be a Sapsan falcon.
Suddenly, I was found that several Chinese people were talking to the waiter. I don't know how to call this name, who is going to give food in the train, like
Conductor or
yes, correct.
waitress.
Yes, maybe conductor is much better, conductor. And suddenly one of Chinese putting some words in some kind of translator and just showed the screen to the conductor. He was trying to understand, but it was no success. I interrupted this guys and said, come on guys, I do not know Chinese well, but if you will say me in a very simple words, I will explain to conductor what you want. Suddenly they were saying that they want some kind of ice cream. I didn't understand which kind of ice cream, and we were discussing, but everything was okay at the end. And then I asked, but I also have a wish. Can you me please show several tricks in WeChat, because Chinese has a very powerful messenger, and everything was quite expectable. But one thing was completely amazing. They put several phones, 3, and put switch on digital assistants, and 3 phones were talking each to other uncontinuously. And I was thinking, it would become a time when our robots will talk. For example, my fridge will tell to another robot, please buy me an eggs and maybe, I don't know, some sausages. And this robot will tell, no, I will not allow it, because I was tasting that goes from our owner in the canalization, and he not allowed to eat, for example, chicken eggs. And these tools would interact each with each other and will discuss what I'm allowed to do or not. And I became sad, because yes, okay, I want to have a healthy life, but I want to decide it by myself, not by robots.
Well, I guess it will be, in a way, amazing time where we actually have to do less and maybe focus on more productive or imaginative or advanced stuff. And it actually covered my last question about the future. So hence, my another question will be how knowing about interactions with the robots could help to make this world a better place.
I already mentioned that I have a vacuum cleaner robot, and it is from Tefal. And when I bought it, it was not a good appliance. It was always missing something for clearance, or was making not a good roads. I wrote several letters to Tefal, and suddenly I was connected to senior engineer, and he asked me directly, "Do you want to be hired, nanet?"
Hire it.
Hired. I'm saying no. I have already my company, so everything is okay. But I am really enthusiast, and I want to help. And I showed him several cases, and suddenly they send me a new one, a vacuum cleaner with open API, so I could program it. So it is not an usual option, but several additional dатчик indicators. Detectors and
Sensors.
so on. And I was trying to make this robot work better and better. You know, it is not easy to draw a map of the flat. It is completely frustrating to try avoid, for example, vases with flowers.
Vases
with flowers. It is very hard to avoid chairs. Very hard. So for very first time, I was thinking, I'm programmist, and I could implement all my thoughts. But when I have exact robot to program, suddenly I realize it is smart enough and make it is smarter very hard. When you have a child, you will give additional rules, for example, in one day or several days, and child would achieve the goals. But sometimes you will give to robot new rules, and suddenly it would stop, and you will understand how глупый, how dumb you are. So silly, correct, silly. So when we are going to talk or to program or to communicate with robots, we should understand our limitation. Our limits is not in the brain, but we think just with our eyes. For example, let's think that you are my owner and I am your robot, and you should think that I should go right side. Okay, right for me or right for you. By the way, for example, my wife, she is orthodontist, and she work with teeth. And you know, doctors always think left and right, not by themselves, but for the guest.
Oh, this is funny enough. А мы рассмотрели навык взаимодействия с роботами и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!